everybody, it's Marianne at Sew Right Sewing Machines, and today I'm going to be talking about lettering. A lot of the computerized machines have letters. Now this is not embroidery. This is about doing little letters that you can program to make labels, things like that. I'm going to explain a little bit more when I'm done here, showing you how it's done. And I'm going to show you here, I did this label a long time ago for this particular quilt. And I put on it Sew Right Sewing Machines, Bayside, our phone number. I even have the name of what I named the quilt, Circle Frenzy. But after I did this label, there was something else I could have considered doing, is what if I did some decorative stitches around the edge before I put the label on here? And what that would have done was give it a nice frame, instead of just ending it with the seam that I hand stitched it down. I still would have stitched it down, but I could have added a little bit of border of pretty stitches around here. It just adds more interest to the label. So now let's talk about how things like this are done. Today I'm on the Husqvarna Viking Designer Sapphire 85, and I'm in the regular sewing mode, but I want to go into the program capability of the machine. So down here at the bottom there's a letter A with a zigzag, and when I touch this, it's going to take me into programming, because if I was to choose a letter, I would get repeated letter A's, A. But here I want to put letters together. So I go into the program mode. Then I'm going to touch the letter here, which brings me into the alphabets that are in this machine. I'm going to choose the brush line. And then down here, I get a keyboard. So now I can start typing in whatever I want. Things like happy birthday, maybe it's a holiday that you want to put in there, the name of a holiday, or you're going to put in a person's name, things like that. Names don't change. So if it's maybe a family child's name, you're going to keep it in memory. Happy birthday, your name, like for instance, made by Mary Ann. Once I program it, I don't want to have to reprogram it every time I want to make a label. So what I'll do is I'm going to save it to memory, so it's there. And then other things like a date. A date I would not save to memory because the numbers change. So that I wouldn't save. But here I'm going to start putting in happy birthday. So I've got an H right there, and then that appears there. But I want to go to the lowercase. So I'm going to touch this arrow, and now I have all lowercase. And then I can put in an A, and I can put in P, Y. Where'd you go? Y. There it is. Y. But I need a space, so I can put in birthday. So I'm going to touch the space bar like a computer, a keyboard. So then I'm going to touch the arrow again to bring me back to uppercase, and I'm going to go B. Then I'm going to go back, and I'm going to go to lowercase. I got I, R, R, B, I, R, T, H, D, A, Y. And I can check to see if the spelling is all correct. If I did misspell something, all I have to use is my cursor to bring it to the letter that might have been wrong. And with this little trash can, I can delete it and then insert the correct letter. So then I'm going to come back down to the end. When I start stitching, whenever it's in the middle of any of the letters, I can touch a stop button over here on the machine while it's stitching, and it would finish the sequence of whatever I program there. But what I can do is right here, I can put in the stop sign right there, so that I don't have to use this while I'm stitching. I can just focus on the stitching being done. And then I can put in a little trim, and if affix a locking stitch, but I'm going to do that before I put in the trim. So let me, with the trash can, I got rid of that. I have the stop. I'm going to put in a locking stitch, and then I'm going to put in the trim. So it's going to do that whole thing for me. But I want to save this to memory. So I'm going to close that tab, and right there is a heart. And that's going to be your favorite things. So I'm going to touch this heart, and then we have the files. This particular machine is also an embroidery machine, a sewing and embroidery machine. And it's cloud-based. So all the files that you've saved, this happens to be my own personal cloud and things in here. But that's meaning that I'm connected to the cloud, And what I want to put the happy birthday in there. So I can name the file that I want. But if you look here, these are all sorts of things in here. I got all kinds of embroidery designs here. So I can make a folder and put it in the folder. Maybe I want to make a folder that says names. So here I have names. I could put, if it said a person's name, or if it said me, made by Mary Ann, I could put it in there. Whatever I want. I can make a folder, or I can just save it. But I don't want it to say new program right here. So when I touch this, I'm going to back out all those letters, and then I can put in HAPPY and continue with the birthday. And then once I do that, I confirm. It's now in my memory. So say it's a new day and I want to find what I stitched. I'm going to get rid of, that's what you would see when you turn on your machine. If I want to find what I saved, I'm going to come back up here. Down here is where you save things or get to other areas, but up here is a folder. And when I touch that folder, I'm going to get to my cloud. And then I would just search until I find happy. Let's see. Where did it go? And I can make this bigger by touching this, so it expands it out. And then I don't have to scroll quite so much. Let's see. And anything saved through the sewing area is done with little, it shows little zigzags. When you see flowers, that means it's an embroidery design. So right here is my happy. So when I touch it, it tells me information, how many stitches it is, how big it's going to be. But I want it to stitch, so I'm going to hold this, and it's going to come over here to my screen. Okay, so now I touched it, and here it appears over here. So let's talk about the fabric. When you stitch, it's going to stitch this way. You can't, your instinct is to put it this way so you could read it as it's going, and you would think that it's going to go like this. No, it's not. It's going to feed in this way. So whatever you see there is how it's going to appear here. Now I've drawn chalk lines on my fabric because I want my lettering to be straight. And I'm going to use the chalk line as a guide with my foot. But not only did I do those things, under here I have an interfacing. It's by Pellon. It's called Easy Knit. I happen to really like this stuff. I fuse it to a lot of the back of a lot of things. But besides that, just like decorative stitches, you're going to use tearaway stabilizer underneath the fabric. So I have the interfacing and I have the stabilizer. So I'm just going to put them together. And I'm going to use the edge of my foot is going to ride along here. So when I put my foot down, I can watch the edge here going along. But maybe I want my letters right at the line. So then what I can do is I can put the chalk line on the inside of this part of the foot. It's really all up to you on how your eye can focus. And then you just start to stitch. And I'm going to move it in a little bit more because maybe I will add a border around with decorative stitches later. So now I start to stitch. Now the whole time it's stitching, I'm just keeping this line parallel, even though it's moving a little bit side to side. And if you notice over here on the screen, the letters are disappearing as they finish stitching. But look what's coming. The stop button, the locking stitch, and the trim. So I don't have to know when, I don't have to think about when to take my foot off the, my foot off the pedal. So now it's come to a stop. And there is my happy birthday. I took my foot off a little too soon. It didn't do the trim. But here you got your happy birthday. So now, if I have happy birthday, maybe on my next line will be the person's name, who's the birthday. Over here, I'll put their birth date. And then we could put maybe love, mom and dad, whatever you want to add to your label. So I want to tell you about another thing I did some time ago. Going to a birthday party for a friend of ours, little girl, and I had made the child a jacket. But then I realized I didn't have wrapping paper or a box, and it was pouring rain, and I didn't want to go out in the rain to go get it. So what I did was I went into my stash of fabric, and I got this piece of fabric, good size, and all over the fabric I put "Happy Birthday, Jennifer, Happy Birthday, Jennifer," all over it. Then I sewed it into a pillowcase, put the jacket inside the pillowcase, put a ribbon around the end, tied a bow, gave it to them. The mother the next morning called me. She says, "Where did you get?" She says, "Forget the present. My daughter wouldn't go to bed without her new pillowcase." She says, "Where'd you get that?" I said, "I made that." She says, "Yeah, but it said Happy Birthday, Jennifer." I says, "I did that too on my machine." So here you can use your lettering for so many things. Got to think out of the box. Can make little labels maybe for something in the kitchen. Put radishes or peppers, whatever those things. So I hope you enjoyed today's class and hope you do things like this. And see you soon. Bye.